But it's a flip side, right? It's a little flipped because it's like Web2. Price go up is actually not important to the majority of consumers. Price go down is the majority of consumers. They want products to be cheaper. And it's like in Web3, products should never get cheaper. Products should always get more expensive. It is kind of funny.
Let's say there's a aspiring Web3 marketer, right? Or a founder who doesn't have too much of a marketing budget and doesn't have millions to spend. What would your advice to them be?
Welcome to the Deco podcast, where we bring you stories from founders and investors in Web3. Before we get started, this is not a financial or legal advice. It's just a conversation about things we find interesting in Web3. Views expressed are our own personal opinions. Deco members or guests appearing on the show may have positions on assets they talk about.
All right, awesome. We have Phin here, who's lead marketer at Abstract. Welcome to the show, Phin.
Happy to be here.
Doing fine. All right. I know that we have a hard stop, so I'll try to keep this brief. So why don't you get us started with your background? Like, what's your story? I know that you've been in marketing since probably 8 years. So that's what I heard in one of the podcasts that you've been on. But yeah, like about cars, about your background, how you got involved with Luca, and yeah, like all of it. Yeah. Please.
Sure. I'll do. Yeah, it's easy. I'll jump in. Yeah. I've been on social media since 2011, 2010, right? Pretty much as soon as like I had access to the internet, I was like scouring social media. Like I found it super interesting. This like connection point for people around the world. And I think I like attached early on understanding that led to like opportunity of something. I don't think I knew what at the time. I was, in middle school. So, it's as much as you can understand about opportunity at the time. And yeah, so I sort of, I knew there was something here. I played around with kind of growing my own social media in middle school, like late middle school to high school. And, was kind of always enjoying it, but there was something like missing for me. And then I ended up working for a smaller entrepreneur, and he was running an escape room, I think. And he needed social media help because he needed someone to like run social marketing for him. And so I was doing that. I was 15, 16 at the time. I thought it was super cool. It was super interesting. I got really into it, and I kind of like spiraled into, working with a bunch of different, companies over the years, kind of bouncing from company to company. And then eventually was working for a company that, in 2021 decided that they were going to do NFTs. I had messed with crypto a little bit in 2020, 2019. I bought Bitcoin in high school to use, for purposes on the internet. And so I had like a bit of an understanding. I didn't quite get what NFTs were at first. I understood there was this concept of like digital ownership, which, as a longtime gamer was something that interested me. And, I kind of got thrown into the deep end because the day I jumped in on that was, pretty much I was full into mint day of a sold out mint. And I remember, going into work, I still was working in an office, right? So this was like a company that, I had worked for a couple of years. And then I had, left and had some contracting. I come back, I walk into the office at 9 a.m. and I think I left at 11 or 12 in the evening, after 5 of us are, in one of the offices, like I'm lying on the floor in the corner, almost falling asleep. Someone's, almost asleep on the couch kind of thing. And it like hooked me. It just like hooked me right away. I thought the community building, the like kind of universal understanding of what this was something really cool. And so kind of just like, spiraled into the last couple of years, getting to, work for some awesome companies. During that time, met Luca, and Vedant and a few of the others on the team. And then, 6 months ago, saw Luca put out a post looking for someone to lead marketing for Abstract. Thought it was the right fit for me. So jumped on some calls, talked to them, and then here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to understand like the backstory of Abstract, how it came to be. Like, if you can tell us about that. What was the thought process behind launching NL2, and why NL2 in the first place? Mm-hmm. Why not N1? Like all of that, like whatever the decision-making parameters are in terms of launching your own chain and, the trade-offs that you think through. Can you just walk us with all of that? Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously Saigar is going to probably be much better about it than I am. And, I'm sure if he ever watches it, he'll yell at me for saying it wrong. But from what I understand, it sort of came apart in two ways, which was Saigar and his team were working on Frame, which was an L2. And at the same time, Luca was understanding what I think a lot of teams in the space began to realize, which is scaling their product needs to be in a controlled environment. And the best controlled environment is having your own L2. It is the best way to have a completely managed, scalable ecosystem. You can decide what happens on your own L2. And I think at that time, the two kind of sides merged and met and then realized there was synergy and that there was a kind of shared goal. And that's where Abstract spawns from, was kind of, Luca and the Pudgy team's need and desire to scale things with their own L2. Saigar and his team having a really, really strong understanding of what made a good L2 and what would make the best L2. And those things kind of built over time. And that's sort of like what led us to kind of this point. I think L1s are interesting. Launching an L1 is fine. I think it's also exorbitantly more costly to launch an L1. L2s these days, there's like a robust framework for them. There's robust tech stacks. There's a lot of teams that are, really focused on building for Ethereum L2s. And so I think it just kind of made sense. It was just sort of the perfect fit. Saigar's team are super ETH aligned in everything they do. It's kind of funny, like, I'm the Solana degenerate on the team for the most part. Like, I'm the trench guy. Like, I'm the only one who was really like, came in and was deep in there because, on the other side, like, these guys are very Ethereum focused. They're very ETH, as the final answer. And so I think it's been super interesting working alongside them because, it's not that I wasn't an ETH maxi, but I had spent the last, couple of years, playing with L2s, but not in mainnet. And, also in the same time playing a lot with Solana and that ecosystem. So, kind of coming back home to where everything started for me, which is, Ethereum focused. It's been super awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you have any thoughts on what's going on with ETH currently?
In what way?
I mean, in a way that the foundation is running itself and so on.
I like the steps the foundation's taking. I think we're like getting to a better place. I also think there's an interesting thing, which is like, there's part of me that worries that like caring too much about what the Ethereum Foundation does or what they say or how they handle themselves is kind of this like weird thing, right? It's like, we don't really care about how the Solana Foundation does things because the Solana Foundation, for the most part, we don't really see or care what they do. We just know that, if they're working behind the scenes, they're doing good stuff. And I kind of wish the same was for the Ethereum Foundation. But I also think that kind of, there's a lot of people on Ethereum who watch kind of the volatility of Solana and they watch the like things that happen on Solana and they wish it would happen on ETH. But it's like the reality is like it can't, right? Like, I was talking with some friends about this. Like if Trump had launched his meme coin on ETH, I mean, we would have seen gas like never before because it's just mainnet's like it can't handle that. Yeah, and L2 is too complicated to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll be paying like $500 per transaction
if not more.
If not more. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that was like a little bit of the struggle, I think, for a lot of people recently. But, I don't know. I put out a tweet about it. I'm super bullish. Vitalik's out in Milady PFP. I think he's starting to get that he needs to be more than just the kind of like the founder of Ethereum, right? Like that's not enough. And there actually is this kind of interest and desire in him being more present and more active and engaged and talking to teams. And I think the Ethereum Foundation is realizing that. And, hey, I'm excited. I also think at the end of the day, it's like ETH offers a lot of things that Solana doesn't. I think Solana has a culture that's broken that will never be fixed. It's a great culture that makes people money, but it doesn't do a lot more than that. Product suffers in Solana, I think, for the most part. I don't think we see high quality product. I think we see a lot of like casino-fi, right? We see a lot of gamble-fi. We don't really see as much like front-facing quality products go to Solana, right? We don't see games go to Solana.
I mean, a little pushback there. Like, there are great games at the moment.
There's great games, but if you take the market share, right? If you look between Ronin, AVAX, you look at Arbitrum, like that's where games go, right? Games go to Polygon. Games don't go to Solana as their primary focus. And again, there's still like some awesome games, right? Like I remember talking to the Honeyland team and like they're making good products over there. That's not to say they aren't, but their focus isn't there, right?
Yeah, in terms of products, like I try a lot of DeFi stuff on Solana, right? I mean, stuff like Camino, stuff like Jupiter and Drift. I would argue that these are great products. I mean, fine, you use them to trade and lend and borrow. But I wouldn't go as far as saying that Solana doesn't have like great products. Like that's all. I get that in a niche that you're talking about, it doesn't have great games for sure, right? I mean,
I think it's more the sense of like, if you were going to launch your product in the space, are you going to compete with Pump Fund and trading on Solana, or are you going to go to another chain where you don't have to compete with that? Personally, I'm not going to compete with that. I would never want to launch a product on Solana because I'd always be sitting there and being pitted against those other things. That's why I think like it is a bit of a problematic chain, right? Because like back in the day, right? Like, I've been trading Sol NFTs since 2022. And so, I remember the days of flipping for like 0.1, 0.2 Solana profit on Magic Eden, like really degenerate days, like, running famous Fox, raffles on a regular basis, right? Like I've been on Sol for a while. I love the chain. I think it's just like for the like longevity of the ecosystem, it's like you're pretty much guaranteeing that if you put a project on there, your mindshare is competing with meme coins. And I think it's like unhealthy, the weighted balance that Solana has gone to. Like it used to be kind of like, it used to be the chain for the poors. And I miss that. Like I weirdly miss when Solana was the chain for the poors, because at least there was like art to trade. There was like, it felt like there was things to do. Now it just feels like Solana's like, that's where you trade meme coins.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, that's fair. I know that's fair.
End of the day, my PFP is a Solana NFT. It always will be. That was, my home for a long time across a lot of projects. I just want more for it. I want better for Solana.
I hope someone from Saurabh it takes a look at this and
Oh, they won't. They're making so much money. Why would they change? There's no need to.
yeah, that's fair. Okay, I want to go back to marketing. I think so. You said that
Yeah.
you bought your Bitcoin 2019, 20, and you're playing around
Something
with
like that.
stuff. Right. And so at the time, I'm assuming that you were involved in Web2 marketing. Like that
Mhm.
was like 4 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So since then, and like what have been your learnings in terms of what is same as far as marketing is concerned, whether that is Web2 or Web3? And what are the major changes? I mean, those changes can be related to how easy it is to quantify stuff, how easy it is to attribute, to figure out attributions, your regular metrics like customer acquisition cost and ROI in terms of tracking and so on.
Yeah. So there's two things I look at. I say like distinct differences. The first one is that like Web2 marketing, competition is really difficult, right? Mindshare attention is a very difficult thing to get in Web2. You usually have to either spend a lot of money or be a 1% unicorn product that gets, awareness in some way. I think the difference in Web3, for better or for worse, is that the quality of your product doesn't inherently matter, because what most people are looking for is sort of just an attention push. And acquiring mindshare in Web3 is incredibly easy. Like you can just tweet out anything to get mindshare, right? Like you can literally post a tweet and get mindshare. When I was working in Web2 e-commerce marketing on products, like we'd spend $150,000 in ads to sell $500,000 to $1 million in product. In Web3, you can spend a lot less than that to make a lot more. And I think like, on a community level, people in Web3 are really passionate. I think that's a really good thing. It means you can easily acquire like diehard fans. I think in Web2 marketing, it was always like acquiring and, retaining diehard fans is a lot harder. I think it's easier in Web3 because people get like personally attached to the product in a different way. When we talk like NFTs and meme coins, they become people's personality in a different way than if you're just going to buy like Legos from the store, right? You go to buy Legos from the store, the Legos aren't really your personality. When you buy an NFT, it like kind of becomes part of your personality, or you buy a meme coin, it's part of your personality. A lot of people buy things in crypto based on what feels like it fits their personal interest. And so like when you're marketing to those people, you're understanding that you're kind of potentially acquiring this like consistent standard user that's going to stick with you for a long time if you do right by them. And so, it was always a little bit different, right? In Web2 marketing, if I saw that our returning customer rate was dropping, I had, one of two options. Either I go out and I run, an ad campaign on Facebook and acquire 50, 100,000 new users, convert those into customers, and then my retention rate goes up, or, I run discount campaigns and try and reacquire those users. It's different, right? Like the strategies are different, because then in this, it's like, I see someone who wants to like sell a bunch of their NFTs. It's like, I'm jumping on a call with them, or I'm like talking to them in DMs, like, hey, how can we help? How can we make this like feel better for you? So it's very like, it's a different level, right? It's more personalized in Web3. And it's definitely like, I think there's a ton that kind of goes back and forth between the two, but it is really interesting. There's definitely similarities too. Like I think community to community, like if your company has a cult following and a community built, that feels pretty similar. The community building efforts. I don't think I run community building any differently in Web3 than I did in Web2. I think that's like pretty much the same. And, I think as the digital age has kind of expanded too, like this hasn't felt as like crazy as it used to. I think in 2021, I definitely was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, we're trading pictures on the internet. What the fuck is this? Right now I'm 4 years later. I'm like, no, we're trading pictures on the internet. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Fuck yeah. So yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot to it. I think it's like, it'd be kind of fun to hear from other marketers in the space who like had prior experience too, to see like how they feel things are different. Cause it's like, there's so many little parts.
Right. So I had spoken to Antonio Garcia Martinez, who runs Spindle. So he was telling us that the attribution engine in Web3 is a lot less developed compared to Web2.
Oh yeah.
And then you also need to, just tracking on-chain is not sufficient, right? I mean, there has to be a bridge between Web2 and Web3 marketing
Yeah.
where you are trying to make sense of data like a little bit more holistically.
Yeah.
So you probably want to tie things like, how much time the user spends on a particular page
Yep.
versus whether that time spent is translating into any on-chain action, right? So
Mhm.
stuff like that. And basically, his argument was those systems where the bridge exists are not very sophisticated yet.
No, they're
Uh,
terrible.
But in terms of his vision for what Web3 marketing can look like for marketers, right? He's like, once you start understanding how Web2 and Web3 gels together, like as I mentioned, right? I mean, let's say you go to front page of Jupiter or you click an ad on Twitter that takes you to Pump Fun, and then your decision whether you buy that token or not, right? Once you start connecting all these dots, it can be way more powerful compared to what exists in Web2. Because Web2, your banking transactions are not open, right? In
Mhm.
Web3, once I can attribute a wallet address to you, I can really see the persona of that particular user, and then like what kind of ads I show to this person when the wallet is logged in on Lexfreener or Jupiter. I think all those things become way more richer in Web3, or rather because of Web3 compared to plain Web2 or plain Web3. Like that's what his take was.
No, I think it's true. It's also the interesting duality of like Web3 is like traditionally filled with a lot of people who believe in a decentralized approach, and that often includes
Right.
anonymity. I've actually had this argument numerous times with people where this idea of like being fully anonymous, not being part of any algorithms, not being involved in any, user profiles, like because a lot of people in crypto are very like a little off the
Against it.
grid. Yeah, they're against
Yeah.
it. I'm very for it, right? I probably have this conversation once a month with people where I'm like, and especially with the TikTok thing, like with TikTok kind of popping up to get banned, it was like, again, this reminder of like, it's not bad to scrape user data. It's actually really good to scrape user data because, like, for you to be served products that actually interest you, like, there needs to be data that gets scraped. If you would like to go on the internet and have a completely algorithm removed experience, like it's not like why? I don't get that. Like it feels like this thing where it's like you have the ability to present it with products that interest you, videos that interest you, articles that interest you, movies and TV shows that interest you. Like all of that can just be presented to you and you don't have to do anything and you don't actually lose anything. That's a good thing. And then in Web3, we have this thing where people are like, well, I don't want any of my information tracked, but I want to make it like public ledger, right? I want a public ledger, but don't track me. Don't let anything be shown. And it's like, it's a little confusing to me always. Like that's like one thing I'm always like a little bit like, yeah, but like if I can connect your browsing information with your wallet and I can track across the products you use, like I can serve you better products. Like that would
Right.
literally let me, like I could see they're using a bridge that takes 10 minutes when I have a bridge that takes 5 and has less fees, and I can serve you ads for that bridge that's better. Like I can literally, like if you let me, I could use your data to present you with better alternatives to the products you're using. But people like they're a little stubborn, right? Like they're kind of stuck in their ways. And so, I think it's like one thing that Web3 has to like overcome a little bit is this understanding that like at some point we have to start incorporating a lot of Web2 tactics that probably feel a little bit scary to some people. I definitely know that anytime I float that kind of conversation of like data scraping and, user profiles and like what that looks like, I think for a lot of people, they don't realize how many products and things they use every single day are doing that already. And so they're
Twitter
like,
does that, right?
Twitter does it. Yeah. Like if you're on,
Exactly.
like, what was the whole thing? It was like, I don't like it's like, oh, I don't like TikTok taking my information as they, tweet from their iPhone connected to like American.
Right.
Like it's all scraped. It's like everything is scraped up until your wallet. And it's like, if you really think that your wallet is like that safe and special, but you also believe in decentralized, I don't know.
Okay, one question I have related to this is, I mean, I get the paradox, right? I mean, I completely get it. But my question is, so for example, YouTube, right? When I go to my YouTube, whatever home page or the landing page on YouTube, obviously the recommendations are based on what I've already consumed. So
Mhm.
my question is, does that reduce the opportunity for serendipity? for me to discover something that is completely new, that is very tangential from what I already do and I might get interested in.
No, it's like it's super fair thing. I think my thing is this, right? Like if you are an innately curious person, you're going to go and find and seek out new information. I think if
But
you're
most
an
people are
innate
not.
No, most people aren't. And like, look, I'm a super curious person, right? I love learning. I love exploring new things. I also love opening TikTok or Instagram and seeing things that I like, right? And those two can exist at the same time. I don't think they have to contradict, right? Like if I am interested in a topic, like I'm the kind of person where I'll see something in a video or an article and I'll go to Wikipedia and I'll read the whole thing and I'll try and educate myself and I'll try to understand as much as I can, right? I'll watch 5 YouTube videos in a row of the same topic because I'm genuinely interested. And I will also mindlessly scroll on TikTok for an hour, right? And just be fed videos that make me happy, So like, I do think there's like positives and negatives. I think like this idea though that like you can fight the algorithm forever is silly. The algorithm exists for a reason. The algorithm is there for a purpose, and like to the original point of like, the Web 2.5 approach or even the Web 2 approach with a little bit of Web 3 sprinkled in. Like, I think most of the future of the products we use is going to be mostly off chain, I think, for the most part. I think we're actually hitting this kind of interesting moment where we're realizing that like with 0.5% of users, of the world's users, or let's say, I don't know, let's say 5%. I don't think it's actually that high. I think we're at like 0.5% of potential total users of crypto products. We're having issues because everything's on chain. Everything is like being put on chain. And for me, like the chain is the validation level to everything, right? Not everything needs to happen on chain. Everything needs to be validated on chain. And so I think like that's kind of this interesting moment for me where it's like, if we can't keep up with this amount of users, how are we supposed to keep up with 100 million? And then you have to start looking and saying, okay, does this need to be an on-chain transaction, right? Does this need to be an on-chain transaction? Does this need to be an on-chain transaction? Or can I just like batch these and validate them once a week against, on-chain data, or once a day against on-chain data, or once an hour? It doesn't matter. I think we scale back over time, right? But it's that, that's the whole thing for me right now is like looking at, some of the coolest products right now are like, they're not fully on-chain, right? Because they understand that like, there's like, signing in. Yeah, that's an on-chain validation moment. That's validating that your account is connecting and real and your assets are real. Pressing play game probably doesn't need to be an on-chain interaction. Surprisingly, you can also do trades without, making them as heavily on-chain as they need to be, right? There are ways to do it in different ways. And, I think we're going to move towards that approach and that position a little bit more over time, where we start to lean on like, this could maybe be a little bit off chain and it's still okay. Because I always fall back to the same thing, which is like, nobody cares about the underlying tech. They just care if it works.
Yep.
That's it. Right. That's the whole thesis with everything that, I've been working on is like the tech is cool and the tech can be cool to me and you. Right. Like I think our tech is cool. I think session keys are insane. I think they're a crazy piece of tech in the global wallet. I think it's one of the coolest things to me, somebody who understands crypto fully. Session keys to somebody outside of crypto means nothing. Right.
Okay, can you just describe what they are? I mean, whoever is listening.
Yeah. So session keys basically allow us to pre-approve transactions over a period of time, a number of transactions, a dollar amount. So you can basically pre-approve an entire session of like, say you wanted to go gamble for an hour and you're like, I want to spend $1,000 at the slots, right? So like, this is like the idea of like, you go to the casino and you take out $500 cash and that's it. And you know that you have to leave the casino in an hour. There's no more money you can spend. Right? Session keys essentially are like that, but for like everyday interactions on chain. So you can say like, I want to go predict on Myriad Market, right? Which is our kind of like premier prediction market on Abstract. And you're like, I want to, I'm willing to predict up to $1,000 and I'm going to make my predictions over the next hour. You sign one transaction and for the next hour, our wallet works in the background and manages all your transactions. So that for you, you're not like every single time you place a bet, you're not consistently having to reapprove new transactions every single time.
Right.
And so for like the average crypto user, like it's great because it simplifies us, makes our individual experience easier. But then like on a secondary level, for people who are not crypto native and not super familiar, like that allows them to, have a much better experience than any of us had when we joined crypto, maybe in 21, 22, early MetaMask, which I think we all have nightmares of kind of early MetaMask, early Phantom, early Rabby, early everything, right? These wallets were not good. they were difficult. They were slow. They were clunky. Signing transactions was just, even now, like sometimes I'll look at, like MetaMask has changed that UI so much. Like I remember, what it looked like when you would sign transactions, and like, I have Wallet Guard, right? So I'm seeing two different transactions pop up back and forth, and I'm comparing the two. And even for me, someone who like, I do this every single day, I still like sometimes will second guess a transaction and cancel it, right? And that's crazy to me because like if I go to the store and I'm buying my Celsius and I'm swiping my credit card, I don't have to do that. I just have to go like, I like 1 Celsius, they tell me a dollar amount, and I swipe my card and I walk out. And like until we get to that level of ease with transactions in crypto, and by the way, I say this knowing that, I can click a button and make a trade, but how do I get the money there, right? How do I onboard money into crypto to even get to that point? Unless someone's just sending me money. And like, again, it's like, we're in this like 15-step process of like 0 to ready to use products. And it's because I think, we built up a system that was predicated on solve a problem by creating another. And it's just been, 3 or 4 years of like, solve a problem, create another, solve a problem, create another. And some of them are not going in the right direction. So we've like got these like spirals off in all these directions of like, where like this product needs this thing, so we built it. But nobody else needs that thing. But this product needed it, so we did it. And it's fascinating to watch like how product gets developed in Web3, because it's very ADHD. It's very short-term focused. It's very like 6-month product market fit timeline, right? Like teams don't seem to build for like what actually matters. They build for what will maintain attention short term. And I think like Abstract, most of what we've been focused on is not that, right? Like everything we're demoing now, we were building 6, 8, 10 months ago, right? So it's like we're not, coming to it now and saying, hey, this is what we think is hot right now. We're like, we thought this was hot almost a year ago, and we still think it is. We're still going to do it.
Okay, so you mentioned very interesting point where it's a 15-step process to onboard anybody to real crypto, right? I mean, not a centralized exchange, but if for their on-chain experience. How is Abstract dealing with this problem?
Yeah. I mean, like, I won't say we're the best or we're better than everyone, but at a bare minimum, we've reduced everything that we can. There still is friction, right, in the initial onboarding. You still either need someone to have a centralized exchange that's funded, a friend with crypto, or they're able to use MoonPay, right? Something like MoonPay. For us, we've reduced the friction everywhere else that we can, besides the things that we can't control. We can't make a better on-ramp right now. That's the harsh reality. For some reason, despite 4 years of the same on-ramps, it doesn't feel like on-ramps have gotten better. It feels like they've stayed the same, which is...
that's probably a function of regulations, right? Because it is a heavily regulated part where online and on-chain meets. I think those parts... we will probably see that changing with the change in administration.
I think so.
But for
now, we don't know how much, right? It's like we can we can only sort of figure out so much, and we can only plan for so much. And so, across the board, like, we made social logins better. We removed the need to have browser extension wallet to interact with the product. We, created a lot easier app discoverability and content discoverability within crypto. We're solving for all the things that we can, understanding that transactions. Yeah. Through a system called Paymaster. So it's essentially like sponsored gas is how it works. So yeah, it's super interesting. And, I hope a lot of teams use it, because I think like, the way we've been thinking about it is like, you could do something where like every single user's first transaction was gasless, right? Give them that first experience of like a gasless transaction where they don't pay fees. And like, they're probably then more likely to kind of afterwards, jump in on and use other products and get interested in the space. Again, not that the fees are like that much.
Yeah, makes sense. No, it's just that another step, right? That you need to sign, whether it is a 1 cent transaction or a $10 transaction, there is still a pop-up that you need to wait and sign and all of that, right? It is that kind of a friction more than gas price itself. In terms of levers of marketing, right? And I think, how important do you think price is as a lever of marketing? I mean,
price? Price go up is the best marketing.
Is the best marketing, right? So
yeah, there's no marketing better than price go up. Literally. And I like, everyone will say that. I talk to like, it's a joke, like, but I'll talk to like other marketers in the space. Coop from Avalanche, who's like, one of the first people I really like talked a bunch to. Price go up marketing is the best marketing.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about similarities and differences in Web 2 versus Web 3, I think even then, I mean, if there is a stock, if there's a company that you are selling it and the stock does well,
Yeah,
obviously,
but it's a flip
there is
side,
more
right?
potential.
It's a
Yeah,
little
it's a
flipped
flip
because it's
side.
like
Yeah.
it's like Web 2, price go up is actually not important to the majority of consumers. Price go down is the majority of consumers. They
more
want it to be
important.
cheaper.
Right.
And it's like in Web 3, products should never get cheaper. Products should always get more expensive. It is kind of funny, but it's also because we're buying assets that aren't supposed to be continually produced, right? We're supposed to be buying one-time produced assets.
Yeah.
hmm And so, yeah, if you look at it in the stock sense, it's like it's similar to the stock. It's where your price go up is the best marketing, but it's different. I think a different kind of person buys stocks than buys crypto. And I think if we get to a point where crypto feels less volatile as a bigger market, I think we'll bring those people in and they'll feel more comfortable. But it's like, talking to a lot of my kind of, friends who invest, like Bitcoin is where they're a little bit comfortable.
Right.
That's about it. Once they start to try to bring them into other stuff, they're like, this is a lot, man. They're like, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand,
And is that on Coinbase or like that is legit on there?
I have no idea. No, he doesn't self-custody his own crypto.
Okay.
Yeah. Because again, why would he? He doesn't self-custody his stocks.
Fair.
And I was talking to, actually, I think I talked about this on another space. How much self-custody money do you actually have?
Oh, well, yeah.
Right? I don't know. I have like probably a couple $100 cash, maybe, if that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure we can consider some like things I have as assets, but like most of our money is not self-custodied. Most of our money is custodied by somebody else. We still have what we feel is complete control and access to it. We don't feel like we're restricted from our money unless, in the rare event we are. But it is always the funny thing where it's like, that's why I'm like self-custody. It doesn't like bother me, right? It's silly, right? Non-custodial wallets are kind of like, that's how we spend money. A credit card is like a non-custodial wallet. It's like these things are all, already exist this way. So it's like, why don't you meet consumers with like where they're at? Why would you not, the greatest piece of advice somebody gave me early into crypto was I don't remember what project it was or what we were talking about, but it was some project was doing something. This is 2022. They're doing that thing where it's like, hey, we're doing, revolutionizing the space and everyone's going to come in and use this product. And I remember talking to a guy who's quite smart and I trust and value his opinion a lot. And he was like, yeah, if you think for a single second that a product blows up in crypto and 1 billion people come in, you're dumb. That's not how it works. You don't get 1 billion people coming into this industry. You get a product that breaks out into the 1 billion users of an industry and then you get access to them. A crypto prediction market is just a prediction market, right? Like a crypto product is like, it's still the same product, right? A crypto game is just a game.
Of course.
If that game wins out and competes against other games and dominates mindshare, great. But it's like what you've essentially then created is like for every product, there's a second product category. And it's like there's gaming and then Web3 gaming over here. But like in the sphere of gaming, like, it feels silly to be like segmenting ourselves off and thinking that like the whole like, if we build it, they will come kind of mantra is going to work when like you have to present the product to people, right? You have to show people that a product is good and that they should be interested in. And as marketers, like it's our job to make sure that we sell our product the best to as many people as possible. Only marketing within crypto and only kind of servicing within crypto users is like a disservice to you and your product. You should be looking to bridge out, find total user, a total user market versus just like, well, I know I can get these people because they're already bought in. You should be looking for the people who are not bought in. That's who you need to like bring in.
Right.
And whenever someone inevitably cracks that code, like that's going to be a big thing in my opinion. And I think it's a lot of like what I hope some of the apps and products on Abstract will do, which is like actually appeal to a much wider audience in a way that they can comfortably interact with and use. And, potentially will then have the interest to explore and interact with as much stuff in crypto as possible.
Right. So I have a cousin who's into games. Like he keeps playing Valorant, God of War, Ragnarok, all of those things, right? And so I keep talking to him every now and then about crypto games and Web3 games and all of it. He was like, those games look like trash.
100%.
Just because they are on chain or whatever special little properties that you want to call it, right? That you want to ascribe to it. I'm not going to go and play that game. So like if we market or build games where the USP of the game is that it is built on crypto rails and not that it is a good game, the dam of that game will always be restricted to the PvP market that we are in, right? And it's not going to go beyond. I mean, it shouldn't feel like it is a crypto product, right? It's a great product
no.
and fine. It's got crypto
The
built
bar has always been low in crypto for product quality.
Yeah.
The bar's always been low. So if you're making the best crypto product, you're probably the worst of your category in the real world. Like that's the truth.
Simple as that.
The best crypto product is not the best product. You are, maybe you're mid-tier in your quality. Maybe.
Right.
But you're competing with companies that don't have to explain away half of their product, right? Like they don't have to justify half their product. A game doesn't have to justify it's a game. A crypto game has to justify why it's a crypto game. That barrier is hardest barrier for any team to crack. And it's why, like, I think for a lot of teams, I always would push them to like, just market the game first.
Right.
Talk about the game. Make sure the
Right.
game's good. If you're going to sell me something, like if you're going to sell me a Ponzi scheme wrapped in a Unity engine, like stop. Sell me a really good game. Understand that really good games develop really strong economies. And like RuneScape has a flourishing economy off-chain. World of Warcraft had a flourishing economy off-chain. Counter-Strike, flourishing economy off-chain. Like all of these things can exist. And so all you can sort of start to do is make it easier for people because those off-chain economies were, for a long time really shit and in some ways still are and can be fixed, can be solved for. And, I think it's just very interesting to kind of watch how teams kind of present themselves on a grander sphere, knowing that, again, they have to justify half their product.
Makes sense. Yeah. What is the one trend maybe that is underrated and overrated in Web3 market?
Overrated shitposting.
Okay.
I think to some degree, shitposting is overrated. I think teams rely on it too heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, I see this a lot of times where like a company account just shitposts and then you don't see any real product from them. And you're like, well, wait a second. Is this just like an intern account for the main company? Like,
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, we took a strong stance against that trend and we were like, no, this will not be an account that just shitposts. So if you go and scroll through Decentralized Co's Twitter handle, you'll see a lot of effort that goes into creating those posts. And I mean, no, it's not a shitposting account.
Yeah, I use it in a way that feels comfortable, where it's like, we can have fun with our account while also still providing important, relevant information.
Right.
So that's, I think, the most overrated. I think people really think it's like the solution to marketing. It's like, well, if we just let an intern shitpost in our account, everyone will pay attention to us. It's like, not really. It's like there's an intern cabal that exists between myself and a bunch of all the major, back when I was still an intern, all the major kind of interns for all the company accounts. And like collectively, I think everyone would agree it's like shitposting done right is successful marketing, but successful marketing isn't shitposting. And so it's like, there's a time and place for it, right? There's a way to utilize it. It's not just a free for all. It's not just an all the top. Underrated, honestly, it's like building a real community. It feels underrated. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but I just see so many teams not building a real community. And they build a hype campaign, but a hype campaign with nothing behind it. It's just a hype campaign.
Can you define what a real community is?
Like real people. Like, okay, I could within a week have the entire timeline tweeting about anything that I want, right?
Okay.
Easily. It's really not that hard. I can go to 3 or 4 marketing agencies and your entire timeline would have one message on it. That's a guarantee. That's an easy thing to do. There's not a ton of people in this space. And so dominating mindshare is relatively easy. Relatively easy to pay for mindshare in crypto. But if I pay for that mindshare and then as soon as those payments clear and everything goes away, there's nothing left. It's because there's not anyone behind that message. The difference being is if you build a community and then you hand that community a message and you let them run with that message, that's where you dominate in mindshare. It's like the way where I look at on the Kaido leaderboard, right? Like Abstract has maintained this position 3 to 5, right? 3rd to 5th place in the Kaido leaderboard. We have no integration with Kaido. Every team above us has an integration with Kaido. They're on the leaderboard. People are incentivized in some way to be tweeting about them. And we're not incentivizing people to tweet about us another way other than being genuinely interested in the product and genuinely interested in what we're doing. And the only reason that worked was because we built a really strong community and then handed them messaging and handed them, kind of the goals and the target and said, hey, run with it. You're part of this. You're involved in this. Be involved how you want to. And people met us where we're at with enthusiasm and interest and excitement. And so, we don't just dominate the timeline for a week. We dominate the timeline for months.
Fair. Okay. Let's talk about I think it would be injustice to this episode if we don't talk about the Abstract ecosystem itself. So I want to
Yeah.
understand, like when I look into abstract or when I hear about it, words consumer crypto hit, or I read them a lot, or I listen to them or hear them a lot. So I want to understand like what it is about abstract that makes it consumer crypto, whereas other chains aren't. And I also want to know what kind of ecosystem, what kind of categories are you prioritizing? I mean, I understand that gaming, NFTs will definitely be, and prediction markets, right? I mean, these three are right up there. But
Yep.
if you can talk about particular projects or anything within those categories and more categories also. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pretty easy. So consumer crypto. Why are we consumer crypto? What is consumer crypto? For the most part, chains have been self-servicing internal users for a long time. Chains build for what existing crypto teams need. We are mostly focused on building what a consumer coming into crypto would need, right? And those are two kind of different things. The platform as well, like, one of the kind of biggest struggles that all of us on the team noticed in the industry was that discoverability for product was really terrible. It was really difficult for someone to come into crypto and find the games on Solana, right? How do you find the games on Solana?
Yeah, probably go to foundation, go to ecosystem, look at
And
whether
hope that the team has updated the list, the socials are linked, everything's accurate. That's a problem. And every chain has that problem.
Right.
Avalanche has that problem. Ronin even has that problem. And so for us, we were like, okay, well, step one is like, there's no app store in crypto for products. It's okay. There's idea one. There's foundation one, app store for crypto products. Foundation two, it's like, okay, people are finding products. They want to see what these products are like. Okay, add in streaming, right? Add in content creation, add in something that shows off product in real time. Combine those together and you kind of get this interesting level of like TikTok and TikTok Shop, Twitch and Amazon. Content platforms come with e-commerce in some way or come with a shopping discoverability platform. And I don't think we're doing anything too distinctly different from that. We're just understanding that we can do it for crypto products specifically. And so that someone comes in, they're looking for fun things to do, or they're looking to watch someone do something fun. Those two things are infinite potential of users. And if you make the onboarding process as easy, as simple as possible, then someone's just going to come in and have fun. And they're going to be stoked to do it. And you capture a new type of audience that isn't coming in to pick the best blockchain. They're not coming in to pick the lowest fees. They're not coming in to pick the fastest TPS because they don't know what any of that means. What they're coming to do is do something fun. They want to play a fun game. They want to place a sports bet. They want to trade a meme coin. And they can just do it. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Taking the idea that someone wants to come in and just easily do something and giving them a platform where they can just easily do it. And I think it's like a little bit of a simplification of where we got to this like overcomplicated state over the last kind of 4 years. And it's, we're getting back to where we should be, which is good product. It's easy to find and easy to use.
Okay, makes sense. Thoughts on NFTs versus tokens as means of branding? I tell you where it stems from. A benefit of tokens is that it can be in the hands of more people and more people feel like they are a part of the brand. But NFTs have that exclusivity about them. So it feels like if a brand is trying to be something that is premium, then NFTs is a way to go. But if a brand is trying to appeal to masses, probably tokens is the way to go. Like, I just want to understand what you think.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question. I think like NFTs are always the more premium approach. You can buy Pokemon cards, you can buy a Rolex,
Yep.
A lot of people can own Pokemon cards. And sure, there's a fun part to those Pokemon cards. A lot less people can buy a Rolex. But the people who buy a Rolex really want a Rolex, And I think like for me, the idea is like either one is okay. Either one works. It just depends on your intention, right? If you're looking to get your product in the hands of as many potential users as possible, potential consumers, then yeah, a token is a great option for that. You can have 1 billion tokens. You have 1 billion holders, right? 1 billion people holding a token. Will you actually? I don't know. Maybe not. But you could have that. And in that same way, it's like, NFTs are a lot less, but it's also a lot easier to build a really strong community out of less people than it is out of more people. It is very hard if you have 100,000 holders of a token to rally and unite those 100,000 people who all kind of share this just like singular interest. The beauty of NFTs is they're personalized, right? You can buy the one that looks like you or you feel the most connected to. You can't feel the most connected to your tokens over someone else's tokens of the same meme coin. They're all the same tokens. They're all the same. It is a flat circle. You're rallying around like a central view. So I think it's like a little bit different, right? I think, NFTs are amazing for the sake of personal identity and community building. I think tokens are really good for bringing in the most potential people. And that's like the easiest way to split them.
Right. I mean, I have many, but I'll pick this. Let's say there's a aspiring Web3 marketer, right? Or a founder who doesn't have too much of a marketing budget and doesn't have millions to spend. What would your advice to them be?
Spend every single day talking to the people that you want to market to. Understand what they want. Pick your dream user, befriend them, right? Be their friend. Find out what they like, why they like it, and then figure out how do you make your product fit their desires. That's it. Dedicate your time to being part of the community that you want to be part of, right? If I come in from a very high level and I'm screaming from a rooftop about my product, there's a group of people on the street below, like maybe they hear me quite clear. But if I walk out and I'm like in the crowd with them, I'm part of that community and I'm talking about my product, it's personal. It's personal, right? It's the same way that like some teams will just throw money from above. They'll pay a marketing agency. They won't be involved in what they're doing. And then it just comes off kind of like, oh, okay, these people don't really know what I want. And it all ties back to the algorithm thing, right? When the algorithm works, it gives us the stuff we want. And if something shows up in our algorithm that we don't want, it's probably coming from one of those teams that doesn't have the experience. So for me, it's like get involved with the community that you want to be part of. And I think you'll find a lot of success in just, showing up every day.
Awesome. Thanks for spending the time. And have a nice rest of the day.
Talk soon.
Cheers. Bye.